So, My Spy is a action comedy that is pretty much kind of like a kindergarten cop in a way. Like we've seen this formula before. And here's the weird thing. My Spy is kind of like action comedy movie bingo. Like you can watch this film at certain points and you can you'll start to get deja vu as you watch this film. You'll be like, "Wait, I've seen this before. I've seen this before." In fact, the film will even call out a lot of these sequences as it goes along. Like at one point, they will directly say, like, "Hey, wait, this scene kind of looks like Raiders of the Lost Ark, doesn't it?" so, to call this film formulaic, I mean, like we could kind of see it coming like a mile away. It's Dave Bautista. It's Dave Bautista basically going through like kind of like a rite of passage that all action movie icons have to go through, which is you have to play the tough guy who has to come to terms with his emotions and learn to connect with the kid and basically be torn down a little bit. Pretty much every action star has gone through something like this at some point. And Dave Bautista is pretty much just filling this quota. Now, I mean, the plot is like fairly simplistic. Batista plays this guy who used to be in special forces. He's by the name of JJ, but now he's working within the CIA. And the problem is he's not that good of a CIA agent. He basically goes in half cocked and prefers to do more of like the guns blazing and explosion and cool stuff. As opposed to doing actual spy work. He doesn't like to lay low. He likes to get involved with guns and explosions and fights and kicking ass all over. This does not sit well with his boss, played by Ken Jeong, who's basically like, you're loose cannon. I can't handle you. So for this next assignment, you're going to be on surveillance. And he pairs JJ up with a hacker by the name of she's played by Katie Shaw. Why did I forget her name? Oh god, what was her name? Sorry, Kristen Shaw. Her name is Bobby, and she's all about this about JJ. She's just like, teach me everything. I want to learn to walk away from explosions all cool like. I want to learn to fire guns. I want to take action. But they're just on surveillance on this latest mission. So their latest mission is kind of like a routine MacGuffin type story. They're basically looking for this terrorist group that wants to try to find a hard drive for a bomb or whatever, and they basically have to look after this family who may or may not hold the key to what this terrorist is looking for. So essentially, kindergarten cop rules. So yeah, you watch the film and then you get to that part, and then everyone who had kindergarten cop on their action movie bingo, just put that on there. And from there, the little girl... they're tracking this family. There's a single mother who has an association with the terrorists, and she has a little girl who's played by Chloe Coleman. She goes by the name Sophie. She's basically a precocious 9-year-old. She's pretty smart for her age. She knows a bit of French. She feels like she's too smart for the room and that everyone at her new school is just going to hate her. So once she discovers that JJ is spying on her house, she basically says, like, you know what, I got evidence, so you know what, I'm going to put you through the whole, emasculated action movie star, the whole series of antics. He takes, she takes him ice skating. They skate around a bit. He falls on his butt a few times. He tries to intimidate the kids at her school to, give her a little bit of cred. JJ struggles to, make small talk because he's that gruff action tough guy. Can't really talk about much except, working in special forces. So he basically learns to connect, and of course, he connects with Sophie's mother, and they start hitting it off. Again, hit more of those kindergarten cop tropes on your bingo card there. And yeah, it pretty much goes about the motions. There's not a whole lot to surprise here. There's some funny dialogue here and there, but it's mostly kind of what we expect. I will say this though. Batista works well for this kind of role. I mean, having played, characters like Drax and Guardians of the Galaxy, he has this ability to be very, very deadpan and make that work here. I think it works for most of the story. I mean, here's the thing. If you're going to criticize this film for being formulaic, it's almost like, it's like an oxymoron. There's very little you can do to escape this format of film, even though it's got the PG-13 rating, so it can allow for a little bit more violence, a little bit more profanity here and there. So, again, more kindergarten cop tropes there. So yeah, it never really escapes what it does with this genre, and it's kind of troubling at times. I will admit that there are a few moments where, like, this film, it tries to, like, basically, like, somewhat satirize, like, the spy genre, saying, like, oh, that this is not what's gonna, like, this is basically not what's gonna happen in the movie. Like, Bautista will at one point say, look, I'm not gonna, have like a little tea, I'm not gonna, like, sit with you and have tea, like one of those ridiculous action films where, like, the action hero has to connect with the kid. He won't do that, but he will do pretty much everything else that we that we expect with this type of film. Of course, the terrorists will come back in the end, and we can have a car chase. There's an intense moment where planes dangling off a cliff. Not too bad. I mean, for essentially going through the motions in this film, it's not awful. I mean, it never really surprises. It never really made me laugh that much. Maybe smile here and there. Well, like I said, it frustrates me because this film will, like, it'll cite Mission Impossible and, like, Fast and the Furious type stuff, and then just kind of just say, like, oh, this is not like those movies, and then go into, kind of the stuff we expect in these type of films, like walking, not looking at explosions and walking away from them, coming up with witty lines when you kill the bad guy. It goes through a lot of these tropes, so it's kind of more or less kind of like a roast of this spy genre, this kind of action comedy type of formula, but never really actually turns it on its head. Like there are a few small twists here and there, but you can kind of see them coming a mile away. Like there's a mild twist involving, like, a gay couple down the hall from the family. Not a whole lot is gonna surprise in this film. In fact, there are a few moments where it just meanders too much, and I just got really bored with it. But at the same time, I've seen way worse in this genre. I've seen the gags kind of fall flat on their face, and here they don't really. The gags are they're decently assembled. The action scenes are not too shabby. They're a little bit overblown here and there, but you can tell that they're trying to make something a little bit more here. But like I said, there are so many moments where, like, they're just falling into the aspects of repeating tropes. Like, there's a scene where Kristen Schaal basically pulls like a True Lies. Like, you remember that scene in True Lies where Jamie Lee Curtis accidentally tosses the automatic weapon down the stairs, and it goes off and it kills everyone in the room? That scene literally happens in My Spy. She drops the gun down, and she actually ends up killing the bad guys. And then, like I said, in the climax, they do reference Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a scene where Dave Bautista's fighting the bad guy. The plane is spinning around them. The propeller is going. And Shaw basically says, this looks familiar. All we need is Nazis. And then, this would be a very familiar scene. She doesn't say Raiders of the Lost Ark, but we all know it. We're all looking at this one. It's like, okay, it's just replicating. It's not like referencing and okay, it's just we're just citing it here. But like I said, it's mildly frustrating, and the fact that they're referencing this stuff, they call attention to it, and then don't really turn it on its head. So, like, there's not there's not a whole lot. Like, obviously, for anyone who's seen the trailer, if you have probably seen this formula before, and if you don't really dig it, if you don't dig this type of film, obviously you're not going to watch it. But if you're going into this film looking for, Bautista and a 9-year-old kid doing little cute antics together, it's not too bad. They have some decent dialogue here and there. There's a little bit of wit. The gags are not too bad. They don't fall back too much on slapstick. I mean, with Bautista, you can get away with a lot more slapstick, and I appreciate him putting in the effort in a lot of these scenes where, he can take punches and kicks and then just kind of take them in stride. And I think Bautista works really well for this type of role of just being kind of, like, understated, like a very much like a low-key Drax that he did in, like, Guardians of the Galaxy. He never really shines, but then again, like, nobody really, breaks out of their shell in this film. Kristen Schaal pretty much does, a lot of the eccentricities that we expect from the actor. Ken Jeong is pretty much in his element. Not quite as sniping as I'd usually like to see him, but like I said, like, everyone feels like contained enough in this film to the point where I don't think it really really aggravates. Like, so it's weird. Like, I'm not really gonna think about this film, but I wasn't really annoyed by it, even for sticking so close to formula and being so referential and drawing on so many tropes. It's all right. It's very very passive entertainment. It's a mild play on Kindergarten Cop with some citation and references here and there. Doesn't really play with them that much, but again, didn't really anger me either. It's a decent film, but for those who have seen the trailer, they're obviously not going to watch it. But if you really like Dave Bautista, he could do much worse than this. So, for My Spy, 2 out of 5 stars. Yeah.